Okay. Have you ever wondered why you're really actually never going to succeed on eBay? Well, that's exactly what we're going to get to today. We're going to demystify it all and explain it here on this show. Stay tuned.
Welcome, everyone, to the Prof Sales YouTube channel. I am one of your hosts, Prof Sales.
And I'm not Prof. I'm just Ask Kaaren.
There you go. It's underneath our names in case we forget. That's really what it's there for. But we are glad that you guys are here. It is awesome to see you all out in the live chat, which goes on during this show. We do the show every Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 2 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. So if you want to be part of the live show, you're more than welcome to do that if you come out on a Monday, Wednesday, or Friday. And if you missed the live show, feel free to leave us a question or comment after this show posts to the channel. But we talk about being in business, we talk about being an entrepreneur, we talk about mindset and staying positive, and lots of other things too.
I have to giggle at something. So we must have arrived in the YouTube stratosphere because the commercial that's running on here right now, the ad, is for Poo-Pourri.
Poo-Pourri.
Must speak to the content quality, perhaps, of the show today.
Maybe your content quality, but my content quality is lilac and roses.
Well, I think that's the whole point of Poo-Pourri, right?
Yes. So this title of the show today, again, we're welcome to the show, and the show today is got kind of an interesting title. It may be not exactly what you think it is.
Is it ever? Do we ever lead off with does it ever end up being what you think it's going to be?
You've been wanting to do this show for a while.
I have. So in all seriousness, this has been something that has been under my skin for quite some time. And I always feel it necessary at certain times, or especially perhaps at the beginning of something potentially controversial as maybe this subject matter is, that we say that just stick with us. We're going to get to it. And just have faith that we're going to approach this in probably the way you're not initially thinking. And it's coming from a place of kindness. And I've been actually pushing him to do this show for quite some time. And today it actually came to be because we argued about it.
Right.
Yeah.
We argued about it. That works.
Our creative hour in brainstorming and outlining and getting ready for the show was basically just like a boxing match. Yeah. Cage match. But
I'm her new editor, and she's very happy about that.
My new editor. So just stick with us because we're going to go into some detail here about why you're not going to succeed and why that's okay.
Yeah, because to Karen's point, there's definitely more to this title than meets the eye, but it has a really powerful concept behind it. So let's just start off by saying we'll just go right down our list here, and we'll try to stay on track and not say the same thing.
Well,
she tells me I do.
Everything that, yeah. So you'll say your part, I'll say my part, but everybody has a different idea. So one of the things that's consistent with our show in particular is that we're not saying it's our way or no way. We recognize and respect that everybody has a different way of doing things.
But we do have the best way.
Well,
no, I'm just kidding.
You do have the best spreadsheet, I think, but that's a whole nother.
It's the best way for us.
But we also talk about things like happiness, achievement, success, and all of those things are very subjective things. They mean different things to different people.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we all have a different definition of success, what it looks like, how we get there, how to measure it. And we can't give you that. You have to come up with that on your own. But there are some things I think that are universal that relate to this topic.
Mm-hmm.
For instance, a lot of people attach that you have these desires, right? You have these desires that you want in your life, things that you want, and you attach conditions or outcomes to those. And what I mean by that is when those conditions arise or those outcomes occur, your desire is met. You say, okay, I want to be, let's just take one that would relate to this topic or might relate to it for some people. I want to be rich. Now, when most people say that, they usually are talking about monetarily. So we'll stick with that for a moment. And what does rich mean? What does it look like to you? Well, then you have this desire, you want to be rich, and you say, well, what does that look like? Well, maybe that looks like to you enough money to where you never have to work again. Maybe it's enough money to go on vacation twice a year. Maybe it's enough money to put your kids through college without any extra debt. Maybe it's the ability to pay off your mortgage. I don't know what it means to you, but you have this desire and you have these conditions attached to it. And a lot of people think that if they achieve those desires, they will be satisfied or content.
Mm-hmm. That happiness is somehow attached to whatever those goals or desires are.
Right. Right. And the topic of the show relates to this very next bullet point on our list here. Believe it or not, guys, we do have an actual list. And it's not a script. It's just a list so we don't forget things. Which
well, it becomes glaringly obvious when we're all the time, when we're like this, when we're like glued to the list. So we're trying very hard not to stay glued to the list, right?
Right. And the topic, and really the first kind of bullet point from all this that I think is important to take away is you can reach all these goals and accomplishments that are driven by your desires, whatever they are. And let's say it's, selling on eBay and, achieving certain levels, whatever those are. You will become satisfied. This was your main point, I think, in a lot of ways. You will become satisfied. I did it. I became a top-rated seller. I sold $10,000 this month. I sold $100,000 this year. I put $2,000 in profit in my pocket this month. Whatever it is.
I bought my lake house. I'm working on buying my pontoon boat. There's some people in the chat that are doing just that.
Right. And you will become satisfied. There's an interesting word, but it's very short-lived.
Yeah, fleeting.
It's kind of like eating a Krispy Kreme donut. Now, not everybody in this chat will have had the unique pleasure of enjoying a Krispy Kreme donut. It's a chain that started here in North Carolina, and it is a nationwide chain now. But Krispy Kreme donuts are pretty freaking good.
If you might be from the South, if hot and now has a very specific visceral meaning to you.
I think it's hot and ready.
Hot and now? Hot and ready?
I think it's hot and ready.
Oh,
but
that means something completely different.
I don't know where you went. But Krispy Kreme donuts are really freaking good. And they are just a big old sugar and fat bomb. Let's be clear. There is no real nutritional value to them. And nobody cares because they're amazing. And they taste really good. However, after you eat one, in the moment, it's good. But after that, there's this moment of the inevitable sugar rush and crash.
Sugar coma.
The insulin spikes out through the roof.
Sugar hangover that ensues quickly thereafter.
Right. After you eat 1 or 6, whatever it is.
Or a dozen. No judgment here.
No judgment. And, it's short-lived. That feeling, the taste of it. It's kind of like, I love when you eat something new or something you really like. That first bite is kind of the best bite, I think, in a lot of ways. Then after that, every bite's still good, but it's not quite as good. And I think that's how it is with a lot of our goals. We reach them, and it's amazing, but it's gone so quickly.
What's impressive today is, and exciting today, is not often going to be there and the same for tomorrow, right?
Right.
So we came up with examples like, can you remember when you first learned to tie your shoe? Or when you first learned to
write? I don't remember
that.
But I learned.
I remember that it took a lot of practice. I remember teaching a certain young man how to tie a shoe.
Wasn't me.
And it lasted, it seems, decades. But you learn these new things, right? You overcame these new things.
Obstacles, sure.
Riding the bike, driving a car.
That was a big one.
Figuring out how to take pictures and list the things on eBay, right? How much that's real. The struggle is real, right? We've all gone through the whole learning curve of what that looks like. And even hitting your sales goals, right? When you made goals and you put things out into the universe, that was a hurdle. That was a hurdle. That was a challenge, getting those things done. And all of those things, once you conquer that challenge, it might be a rush and impressive and exciting today, but then again, it's fleeting. Yeah. And it's not going to stick with you. Like the trend of today or the rush of today is not going to be the rush of tomorrow.
Exactly. So this idea of your success is very fleeting, but over time, people grow. and we hone our skills, we fine tune our process, we get better at tying our shoes, we get better at driving, we get better at taking photos, we get better at hitting goals. But the only real goal out of all this, I think, is to keep growing. That's it. I mean, so this idea that you're going to reach a goal and that's it is not going to be enough for you. And you talk about this because you'll never really reach that goal.
That's the whole point. That you're always growing. And if you're not, then you're not, then you're not possibly reaching, growing, getting better, reaching your goals, right?
Right, because and I think you even said this one to me, or we talked about, there's no such thing as true eBay success. So I'm going to say it like that. There really isn't such a thing like you can point to something and say, that's eBay success. There it is. It's sitting right there on the table. There really isn't, because that implies that someone has learned all they can learn and accomplished all they can accomplish. And I'm going to tell you something. The worst place you can be, I think for me, is when you feel like you've gone as far as you can with something. You know, that happened to that happens to a lot of us, but it happened to me. Like, I'll give you a perfect example. Many years ago, I really got into playing pool a lot. I was playing pool at least probably 15 to 20 hours a week. I had a full-time job as well, but I really loved it. I was playing in leagues, and I was spending all my days off in a pool hall. I'd go in for 6, 7, 8 hours. I read some pool instruction books. I watched some DVDs. I didn't really take any lessons, but I got some tips and stuff from some really great players, bought a nice cue, all the stuff that you do when you play. And in our local leagues here, we have a skill level rating from 2 to 7. And 2 is the lowest skill level and 7's the highest. And it's a handicap league, so everybody kind of has a chance to win. And my goal was to become a 7. I wanted to become a skill level 7. And there was a guy in the pool hall who was, I mean, he was a good guy. I just wanted to be able to beat him, not because I didn't like him, because I thought he was really good. He is really good at the game of pool. And he was a great player. He was a 7. And there were some other players in there who were 7s too and really good. And I kept working the game. You start as a 4, and I think I actually dropped down to a 3 for a while. Men start as a 4, women start as a 3. It's very sexist, whatever. But I actually worked my way up, and eventually I became a 7. I became the top skill level. This was an 8-ball, for those of you who've played 8-ball. And I played this guy. His name was Tom. And I played him once before and lost, I think when I was a 5. And when we played together as 7s, I played lights out. I mean, I really did. And he always kind of played lights out. I mean, he was always really high level. And I ended up winning and beating him. And I don't want you to think like I was nowhere near a pro or even a semi-pro level player. I mean, I was better than a lot of league players, but I was nowhere near a pro or semi-pro level. Those guys are at a whole nother stratosphere. But I realized there was nowhere for me to go. I wasn't going to quit my job and try to become a professional pool player. I wasn't going to put in the time and energy into it. And it's a really difficult thing to do. And it's certainly not compensated very well. It's truly a labor of love if you want to be a pool professional in the United States, at least. There was nowhere for me to grow to. I had reached my objective. And I got to tell you, it left me kind of unsatisfied in a weird way. I mean, I was glad I got there, but after I got there, I thought, now what? Like, where do I go from here? There was nowhere to go but down, because I wasn't going to progress to the next level because there was no way I could really logistically achieve it. And I think a lot of us with, eBay, we get to that point. We think I'm at this point, whatever this point is, and where do we go from here? What's our next growth point? Do you ever feel like that with stuff?
All the time. So a comment was made in our live chat. Maybe it was during the last show. Maybe it was last week. We're not going to get real specific, nor are we going to show a screenshot. But I'm going to read this comment to you, and it kind of speaks to what we're talking about. Well, it definitely speaks to what we're talking about today. And the poster said, It was our show. What were we talking about on Monday? What was the title of the show? I don't remember. But the quote was, you are assuming we all want to grow big on eBay.
Right.
Some are just happy the way it is. Not at all.
Right.
First of all, no, we're not ever assuming that everybody wants to be, what are they called? FBHO or NBHO or whatever? BFBHFO, right? No, we're never assuming that anybody wants to be anything different than what they're wanting to be, right? What we are assuming, though, is that you are all selling things. If you're here on an eBay platform, that we're going to assume that it is your desire in spending the time, money, and effort to list something that you probably want to sell it. I think that would be a safe assumption, right?
Right, sure.
Right? And I find it hard to believe that there's anybody out there, whether you've been doing it for one day, a month, a year, 18 years, like some of our friends have been doing, you're not doing it the same way when you first started. There's no way. First of all, the platform won't allow it. You know, we talk a lot about how things change, right? Even eBay has had to evolve. Amazon has evolved. The rules change. The playing field changes. You know, things that are available to you to sell even change. Your prices change.
Sure.
So anybody is like, it speaks to the whole subject matter of today. And that's why we had this, like, that's why we had to talk about it today, because it's not, I don't believe you if you tell me that you're doing everything the same way and that you're putting it out there and that's enough. It's human nature that says it's not enough.
Yeah.
It's just not. We've reached that place, that plateau. We sell that first thing. And are we done? I don't think so. You know, then we want to sell it again, or we want to sell more like it, or we want to do it differently, or we want to evolve our store or our situation or our platform any way that we do.
Yeah, I mean, you can't.
Did we skip that?
No, we were right on that.
Oh, okay.
I mean, and it begs the question, you know, if you're in that position, if you think you no longer have room to grow, that you no longer want to grow, you don't want to go in any different avenues or different directions or learn anything, okay, you are absolutely free to feel that way. You're absolutely free to live that way.
But what did I say to you?
Well, it brings up a good question. If that's you, then why are you watching YouTube videos? Why are you getting on Facebook groups? Why are you commenting on other resellers or things that are going on? Because it doesn't sound like you do want to learn anything else. I mean, if you want the social aspect of it, I guess there's some value in that. But ultimately, we tend to watch these things. Like, I watch other people because I like to learn something from them. I may actually like the person too, but it's a small number of people that we truly, truly know in this community that we could say we know beyond just sort of a, you know, a tangential sort of connection. And I just think that if I'm going to watch somebody or I'm going to spend my time with them, I want to get something out of it. And I think you can get something out of virtually everyone you meet and talk to. Now, some people are going to annoy you. You're not going to like for whatever reasons.
Some people aren't going to be very funny. That's an inside joke.
That's true. But but if you're here watching us right now, if you hang out on this channel, if you comment on this channel, if you're here in the live chat, or you're watching this video after it is already posted, we're going to assume that you're interested in growth.
That's the only thing that we're going to assume.
That's all we're going to assume.
Like, I don't know how to make that clearer to anybody. Like, we're not, you know, this is your positivity space, right? Yeah. We're not going to make ourselves. I was reading something this morning about how we live in this culture where to make our own building seem bigger and better and the tallest, we have to make everyone else's building around us seem smaller and less. And we just don't do that. We won't do it.
Right. And that's to the next point is growth is not always bigger, but it is better, kind of by definition. Now, better is, you know, better means different things to certain people. It's not always just sales. I have more sales now, so now my business is better. That may not be true. The energy and time and effort and the way that which you did it may not be worth it to you. it may have come at such a toll or taken such a toll on you, come at such a price that you decide this is not the way I want to run my business. And this type of growth is not the direction I'm going to go in. But I think growth is always better. That's the definition of growth. You're growing in a direction that will be better for you, whatever that looks like for you.
Well, and you said that you believe that you can get something from everyone, right? Let me tell you a story. Years ago when I went to, and this is really off topic, but stay with me, it'll make sense very quickly. So I visited different grief groups, right? And one in particular at this church, I walked in the room and I immediately felt the weight of the sadness and the regret and the stuckness of all of the people. And my takeaway from that first and last experience with that particular group was I knew what I didn't want to do. I knew how I didn't want to evolve in my own process. I didn't want to be stuck in that dark place. I didn't want to be constantly referring to my loved one in the present tense, in the first person. I knew that I didn't want to grow and evolve and be sad and mad for the rest of my life. And I think that there's some real world lessons we can learn and put in our own eBay toolboxes, not only what we do want to do, but what we don't want to do. Because remember, we're not suggesting, and we'll joke about it, we're not suggesting to use our inventory system. It's the only one that works, or this spreadsheet, although the spreadsheet, but you know what I mean? Like, you're going to glean bits and pieces from the way everybody does it, and you're going to adapt that to your own model. And that's what needs to work for you, right? Because growth, it's like this elusive horizon, right? So you're looking out at it, right?
Right.
So and it's the proverbial end of the rainbow, if you will. You're going to keep striving for it. Like, we can get in the car right now and start driving toward that beautiful sunset, but we're just never going to get there.
Right.
And we can still continue to travel toward it. So we can continue to travel toward whatever our goal is, whatever our success or our achievement in our mind is, but we're just not going to get there. And so when we tell you that you're not going to succeed, it's not a negative statement.
Nope.
It's just not meant that way. When we say to you, you're just not going to get there, it's okay, right? That's
absolutely right. I mean, if you truly feel like you've succeeded, you'll pretty much stop. And the one thing that we've said over and over is if you really want to be successful in this business, you've got to always keep growing. And if you become complacent with your results, then you will not want to grow anymore. You'll say, oh, I've achieved enough. And that's kind of, there's really no being stagnant. You're either going forward or you're going backwards. There's not really a neutral in any of this. So, you've got to decide like what sort of motivates you here. And I think it should be your growth as a reseller. It should be your growth as a person, your growth as an entrepreneur, a growth as a business person, because honestly, the results aren't always going to motivate you. Other people are not always going to motivate you. Sometimes they're going to try to demotivate you. But comparing yourself is not going to motivate you. The only thing that's going to motivate you every day is to get up and do it better. And it sounds so cliche and it sounds so Tony Robbins-ish, but it's the truth. I mean, it really is, because nothing else will be consistent enough for you. You'll either get too overconfident when your results are good, or you'll get too down on yourself when they're not so great. Other people will let you down sometimes or try to bring you down. Comparison won't fill you up either. So all you ever really have is just improving yourself. That's it. That's why there is no success, because it's just another. Here's the thing, like, we talk about this in poker sometimes. You're never going to know, we call it hourly rate. You're never going to know what your win rate is for a game for your whole life, because you haven't played all the hands yet. You wouldn't know that until the very end, and then it's too late. But if you did that, let's say you knew you were a losing player, you would quit playing. If you knew you're a winning player, you might keep playing. This is kind of like this. You're never going to know what your real success in any of this will ever be until it's all done, or until you quit. But until it's all done or you quit, it's over. And even if you quit, you might come back to it. So just growing every day, every week, every month is the only thing really you can try to accomplish.
Because we're all striving for the ideal, right? And the ideal is different for different people. And the ideal of today is not going to be the ideal of tomorrow, right?
Right.
It's just not. This idea of what the ideal is what motivates us. But remember, even if we get there, it's fleeting, because once we get there, then it's something else, right?
There becomes here, and now there's a new there.
Yeah.
It's never ending. But you can achieve whatever you want. I do believe that. I mean, perseverance is really the thing that separates a lot of people from their success, their growth success. But the key to lasting sanity is always be challenging yourself. ABC for all you Glenn Ross fans out there. It doesn't mean that. But always be challenging. ABC. Always be challenging yourself to stretch and grow every single day in every single way. You cannot become complacent with the way you're doing it, with what you've got. I don't mean to be greedy. I just mean that you could be greedy for growth, though, within yourself. That's fine, I think. And I think if you're always challenging yourself, always be challenging yourself, you're going to always be focused on the growth and not just the result, which I think is super, super important.
Right. And it's one thing to say it's as easy as ABC. We know it's not easy. You have to put in some blood, sweat, and tears, perhaps. But at the bare bones of it, it is as easy, right? Always be challenging yourself.
Yeah.
And we talked this morning about, and I wanted to wow you with some sort of statistic, but I've read so many times that as we get older, like like our grandparents age older. I can remember reading this when I was going to college, but the one way to stay young, keep your brain active, is to constantly learn new things, right? Because if you don't, as we age and our body ages and we get more tired, or we lose muscle mass, or whatever goes along, we're not going to be 25 forever, for all you 25-year-olds out there. But there has to be something we can do to keep ourselves and learning and growing, and always challenging yourself is that very thing, right?
No, it absolutely is. And if you struggle to challenge yourself, find somebody who will challenge you.
Some people are a challenge is an understatement.
No, I don't mean she's a challenge, but I mean she is challenging, and I challenge her. And even though we annoy each other at times, for sure.
I never annoy you.
So do I ever annoy you?
No.
All right. So yeah. But that's important, though, to have people and mentors and family members and a network of other resellers that challenge you. We've been parts of mastermind groups before, and there's great value in that. And there's certain people that I network on a pretty regular basis that I know that if I say something that's just crazy, ridiculous, stupid, they'll kind of pull me back to reality and say, well, that's not really how it is it? And I'm like, well, you're right, it's not. But they also challenge me growth-wise, because if I say something that doesn't really make sense or is not really in line with logic and reality, they will also challenge me on that and say, well, have you considered this, though? And a lot of times maybe I hadn't, or I discarded it, and that's important.
So the real Connie, and she knows what I'm talking about, she hasn't read her email maybe yet, but says it the best way. And it is that when we start dying when we stop learning. And that's, I don't have my glasses on, but that's basically what it says, in her opinion. And we share that opinion. You're absolutely correct, Connie.
Yeah, I mean, and learning is growth. I mean, I'll always be challenging yourself to growth. And that's because when you stop learning, you refuse to grow. And I hate that. Like, I hear that sometimes in people, not always just older people. Sometimes it's people that are, more middle-aged even, and they've kind of gotten so set in their ways about things. And I just think, man, I think they think that gives them comfort. And I guess there's probably people who sell on eBay who are like this. They think, I know it all. I know the best ways of everything. And it's not even just it's their way. It's they know the best way. And they'll tell you that. And I just think to myself, at what point did you discover that? At what point did you wake up one day and decide, I know it all. I don't need to learn anything else. There's nothing anybody can ever teach me or tell me. That's just not reality.
Let's save that. We can do questions now.
Oh yeah. Questions and comments, sure.
So Duncan, so glad you joined us this early and that you enjoyed the last show. We probably should have made a bumper that just dedicated it to you, right? Because didn't we lead off with Duncan's comment on the last show? Remember?
Oh, we did, yeah.
So there you go. And then somewhere, I think somebody kind of negatived and dashed. I'm not sure, but there was a comment earlier about something about how we don't allow negative comments on our videos or something. Let's just get to that. You're right. Any profanity or just gratuitous not niceness, no, we don't, because nothing's going to get solved by someone posting a comment that calls somebody a name or says some sort of untruth. I'd say you post most of the comments, right?
Well, it was interesting. I don't know who that person was. And, I don't, well, I mean, I don't know who they were, but it was interesting you thought we don't allow negative comments because how would you know? Which is an interesting question.
It is.
Unless you had made one and it didn't and it got hidden. Or it got deleted.
There's that.
But I just think that, it's probably, the answer to your question was in your question. If it's a negative comment, why would we I don't get that.
What good does that serve? Who is that going to help? Like, just to pop in here and call somebody a name or say, yeah, you're doing it wrong.
Trust me, we have gotten them. I promise you. And I do see them, but I review them because, guys, if I didn't, there would be comments on here sometimes that would just be so far out of, they're not criticisms even. They're just mean. It's for the same reason that, we start off a video with dislikes before we've even gone live.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, if you really want to do that, but I don't know what you get out of that. Like, how is that helping you grow? I'm going to say that to anybody out there who's hearing this, who's ever tried to post or posted a negative comment on this channel. How does that help you grow? What does it help you do? Or is it just really that you're very, very super unhappy about your particular situation in life and you just want to lash out at anybody who's available? I feel like it's the latter in most cases. And I'm really sorry if that's the case for you, but I'm not going to allow that to be just sent out into the rest of the world just because you feel like you owe the internet the beauty of your logical argument, which is not logical or an argument at all. It's just a negative put down. So no, we don't allow that. You're absolutely right. The answer to your question was in your question.
Yeah, that was really good. Well done. I wasn't expecting that today.
Well, I wasn't either. I wasn't going to say it till right then.
And again, I feel like a broken record when I give the disclaimer that we don't know it all. Have you ever said that you do? I don't
Never.
think so.
That's the whole topic of this show. Is about growth. I feel like I've learned a lot of things about eBay. I was just talking to Eric at lunch, my friend, today about this. I said, you know what? Because we were talking about something unrelated. And I said, hey, I got something to ask you about. He's like, what is it? And I'm like, well, I figured something out, but it created a bunch more questions. And he started laughing. He's like, that's what my job is. Like, every time you figure something out, a whole nother set of questions comes up. And I have always felt it's like that. So it's almost like every solution leads you to a bunch more questions that you don't have the solution for. And it just kind of grows geometrically. But I don't know it all by a long shot. And I don't know anybody who does. And anyone who does or says that they do, run in the other direction because they're crazy. They're whacked. I mean, that is not the case. Nobody knows it all. Nobody knows the best way to do everything. It's just not possible. Nobody's got that kind of capacity or understanding.
Yeah. Did we have any questions or question marks? Everything just sort of is like a fine-tuned machine.
What is Prof ranting? That's a first. Sadie said, that's as close to a rant as you'll probably see.
Yeah, you don't rant. I rant. I go off topic all the time, but
she does.
Oh, hey, I have some show and tell.
Okay. I fear the folks that think they know it all. Yeah, me too. Yeah. Like, there's no knowing it all.
So, and I told her I was going to do this, and I am a little awkward about it. We don't ask for presents. Like, we're not one of those, like, send us stuff, we'll open it on the air and talk about you and yada yada. But I got this thing in the mail, and I wanted to thank this woman for just being thoughtful. She's a ninja gifter. That's what because I do the same thing to people all the time. Like I see something, like I'll think of something and, you know, like piratey maybe, and I'll send it to you. But so I got this book. Oh, you see?
Yeah.
And it is now my new mantra. So this is one of those 2018 fun planner books. And I'm new to this particular one, but it has a cult following. But it speaks to me. So now, like inspiration in the oddest and most unexpected places. But Deb sent this to me, Pinching Pesos. And it was very thoughtful and just out of the blue, unexpected. And I think I cried when I opened it and I read the front of it. But it was very thoughtful. And I'm working on a public Instagram way to thank her, but it speaks to my mission on my channel, which has nothing to do with reselling.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to say that it's the little things, it's the little sometimes thoughts that matter. You know, let someone know that you're thinking of them in a way, and it's just motivational, and it just says that, you know, people care. They want to know what I have to say, and they're with me, and we have this community. And there you go. Thanks, Deb. I love it.
Yeah, and if you guys haven't checked out her channel on YouTube, it's Pinching Pesos. So she's a great friend of the show and of us. So
and she knows a lot about a lot.
Yes, she does know a lot, but even she would say she doesn't know it all.
And that's what makes her great, because I think all of our great friends here I feel like we're in the same boat. Like everybody that we've grown close to, our wrenches, our friends here locally, people that we've gone to visit or have come to visit us. We share this sort of community collab vibe, right?
Right.
And I won't name any names, but it's something as simple as, you know, needing a document from someone and saying, what do you mean you're going to go scan it at the post office? You know, have you ever heard of this app called Scannable? And then you have this, poof, you have technology. And it's, you know, you can learn in the most unexpected ways as well, right?
I can't tell you how many times I've thought somebody would know something in this community that they didn't. And the only thing greater than that are the number of times they thought I knew something that I didn't know. Like, oh, you know that, right, Jason? I'm like, no, by a mile. And that's reality, because we all have pieces of just this never-ending, infinite-sized puzzle that we're never going to put together. And you're never going to see anything but just your little section of it. And that's okay. I mean, there's a great joy in that. I mean, I just think that you always have to keep challenging yourself to push out there in other directions. Somebody was saying earlier about, you know, if you don't like what you're selling, sell something different.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, or what?
I thought it was, if you don't like what you're watching, don't watch. That was a different comment altogether.
Celtic Traders, how are you? It says, any thoughts on what could be popular next summer? I mean, I think that the normal things are going to be popular in the summer that are always popular. Clothing wise, which is what we're most familiar with, are just, you know, obviously shorts, bathing suits, flip-flops, sandals, t-shirts, that sort of thing are always good. Although people will start buying that, you know, like in spring, you know, because a lot of people buy a season ahead, more or less. And sometimes they'll buy in the moment, obviously. But I mean, but even long sleeve stuff and sweaters, things like that, they do probably fall off a bit, but clothing in general falls off in the summer. But you still sell them because people are, you know, that's the people that are kind of looking for deals. They're looking for, oh, let me find this, you know, this is on sale now in June when it wasn't back in November. So I think those things are always good.
Well, and the higher end shorts and hiking pants and clothing in particular, like the REI brands, maybe not all of them, but the Columbia, we just came across a couple of Columbia 4630s, right? They were like, right? But I think consumers are concentrated, like there's this whole throwaway mentality, but then there's also this, I think we as consumers are evolving as well. And I think we're starting to focus, a portion of our society is focusing more on quality over quantity. And we're wanting to be, you know, at least in this blossoming minimalist household, we're wanting to have less, but the kind of less that matters, the kind of less that lasts longer, right?
Right.
So we're drawn to any of those outdoor wear, Columbia in particular, like the convertible pants. Love those.
Rag says, how can I learn if I don't seek those who have succeeded? You can, but their success is never going to be your success,
Mm-hmm.
and vice versa. You're going to have to find your own way. Somebody was talking about today on Facebook or somewhere how they watched the documentary. It's not a documentary. It's a movie on Netflix that I think Michael Keaton's in, about Ray Kroc, the first founder of McDonald's. Technically, he was not the founder of McDonald's, but he was the one who turned it into, a franchise business and so on. And what's interesting about that story is if I say the name McDonald's to you, which is a worldwide brand, one of the most popular worldwide brands there is, you would probably think it's a fast food business. Ray Kroc would be the first to tell you he was in the real estate business.
It's brilliant.
Because his restaurants were on pieces of real estate that were expensive and valuable. So if you just looked at Ray Kroc and the McDonald's experiment from the outside, you might think it's about learning to run a fast food business. Nope, more to it than that. So again, it just goes to show you have to learn how people took what they did and they grew and evolved it through different ways. He got in the real estate business through fast food restaurants, which I thought was very interesting. When I read that quote from him, I'm like, wow, I had no idea, but that makes perfect sense. When I think about where a lot of McDonald's are, they're really good real estate locations. So you always can learn something from someone, but it may not be the exact lesson you thought it was going to be.
So what about that one?
Yeah, somebody was talking about, you were kind of talking about that a moment ago. Sadie, Mr. Sadie says, where would you like to be in your eBay business? Any dreams? If you don't mind answering. We do. And to Kaaren, what Kaaren was speaking about a moment ago, I'm going to leave that for the coming weeks.
Yeah, because we are making some changes and sort of shaping what that looks like. And so we don't mean to be cryptic, Sadie, but we're going to be talking about that a lot in great detail. Wes, so anything to list without having to use your arms as much? Yeah, clothing is not going to be the answer. Shoes aren't bad, but because there's too many angles that you have to shoot it at, you're going to have to reposition. Maybe collectibles. I don't have to change the camera too much.
Yeah, and I was going to say too, one way to shoot a lot of things that you don't have to use arms as much, quantity. Items that you can get in quantity, you're shooting one photo to list 10. So that's saving you a lot of photos right there and a lot of movement with your arms. So that's a great question, actually.
Well, and Alex kind of asked the same question about our diversification. Merch. I can't speak about everybody, but I think the throttle has been pulled on merch.
Yeah.
We can't put up any new designs. It has been halted. So.
And that just goes to show you. One of the things we've been talking about, especially in the past 6 months or so, you've got to diversify your business. Because if you were relying primarily on your merch income, and now you cannot keep uploading new designs, think if you just got tiered up. Think if you just went from the 1,000 to 2,000, I think is the jump. I think that's a jump. They're like, great, I can double the number of and now you can't, because they've throttled it back because they've gotten inundated. Now you can go to other POD sites, but you should have been doing that anyway. And that's just goes to show you that you always want to diversify out your revenue in case the inevitable rule change, platform goes down, it goes away completely, you get banned, suspended. Any and all of those things can happen to you and do happen to people all the time.
And it speaks again to the evolution of the platform, that there's no way you're doing it the same way today as you were a year ago, 10 years ago, nor will it be the same way you're doing it a year from now, 10 years from now. Right. And even with merch, in January, your commish is going to be less. Like there's this whole, so basically here you can make long sleeves now, but we're going to pay you a whole heck of a lot less to do it.
No, absolutely. And I think you should still, especially if you're starting to sell on eBay, just starting out, I think you should absolutely still look to do a niche, for instance. I don't think there's anything wrong with that, but putting all your eggs in the eBay basket is risky. If you're depending on that income, if you're depending on that revenue stream and it's your only revenue stream, and maybe it's paying a big chunk of your bills or all your bills or whatever, it's risky because it's not so much even just the niche, although that could be risky, but it's more risky that the platform could go away for you. You could get suspended or banned, or it could even go out of business. So, it's just I mean, it's a great way to learn things, but ultimately you always want to be diversifying your revenue.
Yeah. And the merchers are great examples because, I mentioned a post a couple shows back where this fella had waited to get approved for merch, didn't wait around, and was making bank on all the other POD sites. So you can't wait for the money to come to you. You have to go out and get it, and whatever that looks like. And there's so many ways you can Google on how to make money online.
Yeah. Brian asked, we got time for maybe one more or two here. What happened to the making of a shoe salesman story? Good question. The reality is it wasn't the way I wanted to go. And not that I didn't want to go that way at all. We still do sell shoes. We have over 100 listings of shoes, but I decided I didn't want to scale it to that level. I decided after getting into it and seeing some of the sell-through and the learning curve that I was behind, I just felt like my time and talent would be best spent in other areas.
Well, and I think we can speak to this as far as our future plans. So we make no secret that we are in one of the better yet more expensive school districts in our state, in our county. And so we're not going to be in this house forever.
Right.
And it's more space than we need.
It is,
right?
For sure.
And so part of our planning is, what does that look like in a year when we're not here anymore? We can't, somebody asked about the 5,000 gene quest you were on. It's not a failure. You just changed the direction of your sales. You just decided that that's not where you wanted to go with it, and that's okay.
Yeah, it's been part of my growth because I've decided as I've gone along that certain things felt better than I'm not thinking about it this way. If we're telling you that you should diversify your revenue streams, that means you shouldn't go all in on one thing. If you want to list 5,000 jeans on eBay, you should do it. Recognize that that is going all in on one thing. That is what you're going to have to focus a huge percentage of your time on. There's nothing wrong with that model. I just decided that there was a risk to it and a time commitment to it that didn't allow me to do other things, an energy commitment that it didn't make sense for me. I've become increasingly worried about having all my eggs in just the eBay basket. So it's become a part of what we're doing, but it's not the only thing. And I think that's always the wise course of action. I just feel that, if you put all your eggs in some of these e-commerce platform baskets, you're going to get the rug pulled out from under you at some point if you're not careful. And hopefully, even if you are careful, there's nothing you can do about it. And it's just the way of the world we're in now. You just need to move into other directions and make sure that if one thing goes away, you're not totally out of luck.
Well, and we spoke the other day in the car that it's a sort of weebly wobbly unsure time, because we're in the most exciting time of consumerism, if you will, because we're going away from the brick and mortar, and whatever's happening right now for e-commerce, whatever you're involved in, whatever platforms you're exposed to, the exciting and maybe scary part all at the same time is it's not going to look like this. Right. The geography is going to change, I think. And we should do a show about,
and keep changing
about whatever guesses. There's a big word for that, but like we'll prognosticate. That's a big old word.
Maybe we'll talk about investing.
So okay. So it's all going to change drastically, and that's just whatever it looks like now. It's not necessarily going to look like that's part of it. Just hang in there.
That's it. So well said. All right, guys. Well, thank you very much for coming out today. We had well over 120 people watching, so we hope you enjoyed it. What should they do if they like the content, Kaaren?
Because all my pirates are in the chat. Mateys, you should smash the like button.
There's your favorite pirate saying it.
Yep.
Check out the links down below, guys. We got a lot of cool descriptions of things down there that you may be interested in, including the brand new spreadsheet for eBay and Amazon tracking, which is pretty cool.
It's pretty
coming out soon in 9 days. Is that you?
No, that's you. That's me.
All right. So we're going to leave you with this thought. Keep growing, always moving forward, constantly focused on the next horizon.
You will never get there, but that's okay. If you take away anything, it's going to be all right.
That's it.
So happy sales to you, people. This is Just Ask Kaaren.
And Prof Sales
Saying good sales to you.